enough. Jenna, please continue.
Patriots played a rare Week 4 must-win game yesterday,
Coward likes the Patriots to win it all.
Trying to beat the undefeated Miami Dolphins. They didn't have to try that hard. So the Pats handed Miami 38-7 beatdown, snapping their 2-game skid. They show consistency on both sides of the ball for the first time, really, this season. Tom Brady with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. The only blemish, Rob Gronkowski had to leave with an ankle injury. He did not return. Here's Tom Brady after the game.
We haven't played well the last 2 weeks, and we talked a lot about the things we need to do better, and we need to carry them over from week to week. So this game's great, but you got to turn the page once you learn from it, and you get focused on the next game, and you build on the things you didn't do well. You understand what they did well, and some other teams are going to see that too. So it's just it's a long process. It's a long season. We've only played 4 out of the 16, and hopefully we're a lot better in October than we were in September, and we're going to need it because we face some good competition. And this was one that we really talked about and tried to get on track and got off to a fast start and played from ahead, which is, most teams that play from ahead end up winning.
All right, Coach, how much less concerned are you about this Patriots offense after what you saw yesterday?
Well, I was concerned for the first time in a long time going into this game, and to see them come out and identify what they needed to do. And we talk about this a lot. It's not who they are, it's who they need to be, and they run the ball 40 times during the course of the game, and they do things. James White's the leading receiver. He's got 8 catches out of the backfield. They run him on vertical routes. There were things that they did that were very specific to the Miami Dolphins, and it worked out really well, and it worked out the way that the other games have been problematic for them. I'd say the other area that I was encouraged by is third down. They did a much better job both offensively and defensively on third down, which has been an issue throughout the course of the season.
Well, I mean, the Pats absolutely answered the challenge in what was, in my eyes, their first, almost call it a must-win game in the first month of the season that they've had in this era of football. Like, people say, oh, they get off to slow starts. Yeah, but they haven't been 1-3. They haven't lost to Miami in this building with Tom Brady playing in over a decade. Like, this is a game the Pats always win. And so it wasn't just that they won, but they won in such dominant fashion. They found a way to dominate, sorry to use that word again, but the Dolphins on the ground. I didn't see 40 carries coming. See, you mentioned before the game that the Dolphins D coordinator said, we think they might want to run the ball 30 times. And it was a good guess by him. But on the other side of the ball, you said something last week. I've never heard it said, and I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it. The Patriots don't want to dance. They want to punch when you were talking about defensively. And all those dancers on Miami offensively got shut down. Like, the Miami offense that we'd seen through the first 3 weeks of the season was nowhere to be found at any point in yesterday's game. It's not like they got off for half a quarter and then, no, the whole game they were shut down. So it was, to me, a dominant, resounding win on both sides of the ball for New England.
Yeah, what Miami's trying to do with Adam Gase as their head coach is offensively try to generate some first downs and then go up-tempo. They couldn't get in the up-tempo because they couldn't generate first downs. That's kind of their thing. When you watch them, when they start the games or when they start series, they typically won't go no huddle coming from either out of a timeout or a change of possession. They go up-tempo after they get a first down. So if you want to be able to negate that, you got to be able to get them off the field, which New England was able to do earlier. You made a good point as far as their leading receiver, James White. We know Sony Michel, their leading rusher. Do we think that they can do that week after week? I don't think that they can. I know James White can't be the leading receiver every week because James White is best when you're expecting someone else to be their go-to guy or you're trying to key on someone else, that being Edelman, being Gronk, and then he surprises you. Now, Sony Michel, we got to just watch him because he's a guy that came into the league with a bad knee from the University of Georgia. In 47 games at University of Georgia, only 11 100-yard games. So he had 1 in the NFL. Do we expect him to be like Terrell Davis when he went from Georgia not being productive to outstanding in the NFL? I don't expect him to be that, so I don't think that they have a runner, even though Michelle had over 100 yards. Who's going to be their main ball carrier and who's going to be their leading receiver, F. Gronk? Those are questions that they're going to have to answer.
And I like the fact that they're carving out roles for guys guys. Josh Gordon gets a little bit of playing time. He has some production. Let's see where he is another week into the mix. You see the touchdown by Cordarrelle Patterson. That, to me, is another positive.
Yes.
Dorsett's, he's got some production as well. So these guys can get marginally better each week as they grow. That takes the pressure off of Gronk, and now they get Edelman back. That's positive, too.
And after the first month, what you're going to start to see is they're not going to highlight Cordarrelle Patterson. They're not going to highlight Philip Dorsett. They're not going to highlight Hogan, because those guys aren't featured guys. They will try to do, as Coach said, the few things that they do well, and they'll try to put them in that position more often. The problem with these guys is there's not a whole lot of just out. What do they? Does this guy release? Does this guy run slants? Does this guy run deep intermediate? They don't have a whole bunch of things outside of Hogan that you can pinpoint and say, you know something, this is their strength as a receiver.
So who will they highlight if they're not going to highlight those guys?
Edelman. They'll highlight Edelman the moment he gets back, and Gronk as long as he's healthy.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, they will. This is, I mean,
Sony Michel, James White.
And all of a sudden, I mean, we were so worried about the receiving corps, justifiably, but they got through this month. They'd rather be 3-1, but they're 2-2, and now Edelman's back. Gordon is at least active. We saw that you mentioned we can't expect this from Sony Michel every week, and you're totally right. But the Pats did spend a first-round pick on a running back for the first time since Lawrence Maroney, because they think they can use him effectively, whether that's more of as a receiver, running back combo, whatever it is, or a receiver out of the backfield, I should say. Like, they all of a sudden are looking more whole now that Edelman's back. If they'd lost, we said it, we would have led the show with him. Not only did they not lose, they won this game 10 minutes in.
But the other thing is, the great thing is they don't necessarily highlight anybody. They highlight whoever's open. And that's what gives all these guys a chance to be productive, where in other systems they need to highlight someone. I think the other thing that's interesting about this game is it's another example of learning how to deal with success. So Miami's 3-0. They needed to learn how to deal with success. I don't know what their week of practice was. I don't know what their week of preparation was. But then you counter that with New England, who's dealt with adversity, who's dealt with challenges, and you hear it press conference after press conference. What did we learn? What can we move forward on? What can we take to the next game? The next game is our only focus, and that consistency, where I know, a lot of teams, when they get successful, things sway and change.
Yes.
And you got to learn that talent.
And that, when you say they highlight who's open, that was never more on the display than on third downs. 10 of 15 on third downs, plus some they picked up due to penalty. And you saw, they weren't a lot of 3rd and inches. It was 3rd and 6, and they fined Gronk for 7 yards. It was 3rd and 7, and they fined Hogan for 8 yards. Like, they were excellent on staying on the field.
And that's been a huge issue all of this season, and it was an issue last season to some degree as well. So I'm sure this past week there were extra periods on third down. There's extra preparation on that, and they're gonna see, okay, here's our problem. Let's put resources and fix this problem.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, will Le'Veon Bell be traded sooner rather than later? Next on First Things First. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh ham has no added nitrates, or artificial preservatives. Now, Deli Fresh flavors for everyone, like those who like sweet, those who prefer heat, and those who just love meat. Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh.